Hi ladies, okay, so I'm going to do a little video for you for the revision topic that you have this week, okay? So food groups and nutrition and the digestive system. Okay, so let's start off with food groups. So there's a number of food groups you have to know. So you need to know carbohydrates, fats, proteins, you need to know vitamins and minerals, trace elements, and talk about a balanced diet, okay? So let's start off with carbohydrates. So we all know that carbohydrates are the food groups that give you energy. But did you know that carbohydrates can be broken into three groups? You've got monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Monosaccharides are carbohydrates made up from a single sugar unit. The disaccharides are the carbohydrates made up of two sugar units. Okay, your example of your monosaccharides are glucose. Your example of your disaccharides would be lactose or maltose. And then your polysaccharides, girls, it's many sugar units joined together, would be starch or cellulose. Now, when you're testing carbohydrates, girls, there's two tests that you need to know. You need to know the reducing sugar test, which is your test for mono and disaccharides, which is your Benedict's test. That's the test where you use Benedict's solution and with a reducing sugar, and you heat it up, and the colour goes from blue to brick red. Then your polysaccharide test, girls, is your starch test, which is where you use iodine, and it goes from a kind of dark brown colour to a blue black. Okay. Um, Carbohydrates, girls, the elements that it's made of from the periodic table are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The foods you find carbohydrates in will be the mono and disaccharides are sweet tasting. So anything that's sweet, so like your biscuits, your cakes, they'd have mono and disaccharides in them. And things that aren't sweet that give you energy would be breads and pastas and cereals you find your polysaccharides in, okay? Okay, let's move on to fats. Fats, girls, are made up of a glycerol molecule attached to three fatty acids, and there can be many different types of fatty acids. The two types of fat, girls, that you can get in your diet is saturated and unsaturated. Saturated and unsaturated. So saturated fats tend to be solid at room temperature, such as butter, and unsaturated fats tend to be liquid at room temperature, such as vegetable oils and olive oil and things like that. They tend to be better for your heart. Saturated fats can lay down a kind of fatty layer in the inside of your blood vessels that can cause heart attacks and strokes. Your test for your fats, girls, is your brown paper test. So you place the food between two pieces of brown paper, squish it, it leaves a permanent mark if there's fat present. Fats are really important for energy, girls, also for your for vitamins, because there's certain types of vitamins can only come in fatty foods, such as A, D, E, and K, and also really important for your skin too. Now, and insulation. Protein, girls, protein contains the same elements as carbohydrates and fats, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, but it also contains nitrogen. Protein is found in meat, dairy, legumes such as beans and peas, and fish, and nuts as well. The protein test, girls, is what's called a Biuret test, and it's where you add copper sulfate and sodium hydroxide to a food sample, and you should get a lovely, goes from a blue to a lovely lilac purple colour. Now, proteins, girls, are broken down in the liver, and they're what give urea or what give your pee that yellow colour. Okay. Now, vitamins, girls, you need to know two vitamins. You need to know fat soluble and water soluble. So, water soluble is vitamin C. You find it in citrus fruits. It's really important for your connective tissues. If you don't get enough of this, you get scurvy. That's called your deficiency disease. Whereas your fat soluble vitamin, girls, is called vitamin D. You find it in milk. Really important for your bone strength. And if you don't get enough of that, your deficiency disease is rickets, where your bones kind of bend outwards. Your important minerals, girls, in your diet will be iron for your blood cells, your hemoglobin in your blood cells. If you don't get enough of this, you get anemia, which is a kind of a weakness and tiredness or paleness to your skin. So you have to take in your red meats or your green vegetables. And then your another mineral will be iodine, which is really important for the production of thyroxine in your thyroid. Then your trace elements, girls, will be copper, chromium, and zinc. Okay, for general health. Now, everybody needs these food groups in different amounts. So a balanced diet is a diet which gets the correct amounts of your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates based on your activity levels and your age. To simplify that, dietitians have come up with what's called the food pyramid. So the food pyramid has vegetables at the bottom and fruit at the bottom, then carbohydrates, then your proteins, your fatty materials, and then such as your oils and your fishes and stuff like that. And then you've got your sweet things up the top, which you should only have a small amount of. So really, on every meal, you should have at least half your plate fruit and veg, a small amount of carbohydrate, then some protein. Okay. Okay, now, so moving on from that, girls, we're going to talk about the digestive system. So let's talk about this. So your digestive system, girls, and this is a small image that I've drawn of it, okay? I'm not the best artist, as you can see, but it starts up here at the mouth. In the mouth, you've got two types of digestion occurring. You've got your physical digestion and your mechanical digestion. Physical digestion occurs by the teeth, and that's where things are physically broken down into smaller parts by the teeth moving up and down. You need to know the types of teeth. Your incisors, they're for slicing. Your canines are for tearing. Your molars are for grinding, okay? Then you need to know what's called your dental formula. Your dental formula, girls, it tells you the numbers and types of teeth in your mouth. So this is your dental formula here. You've got two incisors on one side of your mouth, and one canine, two premolars, and three molars. Now, after your food has begun to be digested chemically and physically through your mouth, it moves by wave-like motion called peristalsis down your esophagus or your food pipe, and it goes into the bean-shaped organ called your stomach. Your stomach, girls, is where the chemical digestion occurs, because it releases an acid called hydrochloric acid, which is a pH of 2, and also releases a protease enzyme which breaks down proteins called pepsin. Now, this is released in an inactive form called pepsinogen, because it would otherwise digest the stomach itself. So it has to be released as pepsinogen, which is then created or turned into the most active version called pepsin by the acid. So the acid makes your enzyme work here to be able to break down the protein in your stomach to make what's called chyme. Okay, now once the food is in the stomach, maybe for 4 to 5 hours, it's ready then to move on to the small intestine. Your small intestine is composed of 3 parts: your duodenum, your ileum, and your jejunum. The whole function of your small intestine, girls, is to absorb your minerals and your vitamins into the bloodstream, and your food groups, obviously your carbohydrates and things like that. So the job of the small intestine is absorption. Also, beside your small intestine, girls, you've got your liver. Okay, I'm not very good at drawing the liver. You've got your gallbladder and your bile duct, and you've also got what's called your pancreas. It looks like a big feather. Okay, these are associated organs of the digestive system. They're very important. Your liver is where your food goes after it's been absorbed through the small intestine, and it's where it breaks down toxins. Okay, your liver also makes a brown-like material called bile, which is made from broken down red blood cells and enzymes and salts, and that is stored in your gallbladder. And the bile is fed into the small intestine by your bile duct. Okay, so that's really important for breaking down fats. Okay, the bile is really, really important for breaking down fats. So that's your gallbladder, your bile duct, and your liver. Your pancreas, girls, is quite a complicated organ because it has 2 jobs. It makes enzymes and it also makes a hormone called insulin. The enzymes include amylase, like the one that's released in your mouth that helps to break down food. And then the insulin, girls, that's job, it's not digestive. Insulin's job is to help people absorb sugar into their cells, because sugar itself in the blood is actually a toxin. So that insulin is to help you absorb sugar into your cells and make fat. If you don't have enough insulin, you're what's called diabetic, and you have to take insulin itself. There's 2 types of diabetes, girls: type 1 and type 2. Type 2 is usually from lifestyle factors. If you've become overweight over time, you get what's called type 2 diabetes. Now, let's go on to your large intestine. So the job of the large intestine here, girls, is to absorb water, and it's also the home of symbiotic bacteria. Okay, so the large intestine is made of a number of different parts again. So your caecum, your ileum, and your colon and your anus. Okay, so the large intestine absorbs all the water out of your chyme, or out of the food, meaning that it starts to become more feces or poo-like. Okay, and it's also it's a place where the symbiotic bacteria help to break down any extra parts of the food that haven't been broken down already, and they help to release really important vitamins such as vitamin K, which is really important for blood clotting. Okay, then when it comes down to the colon here, girls, this stores your poo until you're ready to release it. So that's usually when you're toilet trained. And then obviously your anus is a muscle then that where your poo comes out. Okay, now so your poo, girls, try and draw a little emoji poo here. Okay, so your poo, it contains digested undigested material, excuse me. So anything that has never gone into the bloodstream, girls, stays in your poo. So it tends to be cellulose from plant cell walls. So vegetables give you fiber. Any sort of brown breads, brown pasta that you have, brown rice, that also contains cellulose that goes here. It's really important to include fiber in your diet, okay, because it means that your gut health is better. So your large bowel works better, your large intestine works better if you've taken in lots and lots of fiber. And most people are deficient in fiber in their diet, and so they become what's called constipated. The difference between defecation or going for a poo and excretion, girls, is excretion is getting rid of digested waste, such as through your kidneys, which would be having a wee, or breathing out carbon dioxide through your lungs, whereas defecation is the getting rid of undigested waste. So girls, that's a really quick view of the digestive system. I hope that is simple enough for you to understand.